The United States has placed new sanctions on several Chinese entities for, quote, knowingly engaging in transporting Iranian oil. According to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, it's part of a push to place maximum economic pressure on the Iranian regime.
That move comes weeks after drones attacked oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. And while it's not been confirmed, several world powers, including the U.S., have blamed that attack on Iran. Joining us from Capitol Hill to discuss potential negotiations with Iran and concerns about escalating tensions is Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee. Congressman Burchett is a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and he also serves on the Budget and Small Business Committees. Welcome back, sir.
Thank y'all for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Sure. So just give us your assessment of where we are with Iran and what you think the path forward should be.
Well, first of all, it might come as a shock to y'all, but I don't want any military conflict. I served as our county mayor, and you want to know the price of that $2 a gallon gasoline. I'll take you under a few bridges and show you some of our veterans that are there. And to me, that disgusts me the way, because we're not responsible for we don't do what's right by our veterans. My father fought in the Second World War, and my mama lost a brother. Heck, my mama flew an airplane during the war. She was pretty cool, and but. We don't take care of our veterans. We go off in these wars and we throw our men and women into these conflicts, and I don't want that. I don't want that at all. But I think we got to realize, though, that when President Obama cut that so-called nuclear deal, it was terrible. It's terrible. It was it funded Hezbollah, the Hamas, and the Houthis in the Yemen. And until we got to realize we have to protect Israel from Iran, and I don't trust Iran. I would hope that we could, that the president could work out some agreement where military involvement is not there, and we're not, and the American taxpayers aren't on the hook for $1 billion on a pallet somewhere. So I'm hoping that his negotiations are working out. But if they don't, military is always the last option. My dad used to say, old men make decisions and young men die.
Well,
I don't want that decision at all.
Yeah, this is one area where there's a lot of consternation here, sir, about what's going on in the administration. There was that confrontation between John Bolton and the president, allegedly over some of this Iran deal. What type of ultimate deal would you like to see the president strike with Iran? What does it look like?
Well, I would hope it would be some sort of disarmament on their part. The problem is you just can't trust some of these folks. And I mean, I'm just being honest. Obviously, I'm not working for the UN, and I'll never be in the diplomat corps because I'm from Tennessee, and I'll tell you what I think. And what I think is these folks are bad actors, and we can't trust them. We can't trust them. And you know what? Eventually, we're going to have to decide, is it worth another American boy or girl coming home with mental problems or physically disabled? We just got to pull out. We got to cut it and tell our friends over there, dadgummit, y'all are going to have to start carrying your own weight. And I'm sick of America being in these foreign worthless wars that nobody knows who's fighting who. It changes. 1 minute we're supporting one group, and the next minute they're flying airplanes into our buildings. And so I think we've got to realize that these wars over here have been going on since biblical times, and that we're not going to Americanize them. And eventually we're going to have to say, hey, we're going to have to pull out.
Well, to that point, we just moved military assets and about 200 troops into Saudi Arabia. Do you think that's the right move?
Well, I don't want to second guess our military or our president. I go back to I'm tired of these endless wars, and I'm tired of these neocons that are pushing us towards that. And we've had leader after leader after leader that's done that, and I don't see any end in sight other than I see some people, their portfolios getting fattened. And, at some point, too, we got to say, hey, let's develop our energy in this country. Let's start looking at alternatives. Oak Ridge National Laboratories and the back door they should be developing everything from clean coal technology to we ought to be working on our carbon capture and other things like that. So until we do that, we're still going to be in these wars, because the bottom line is the reason we're over there is for oil. You can look at anything you want, but it's oil. And I know everybody likes to get up on their high horse of diplomacy and democracy and things like that, and it's just not happening, and it won't happen. Once we turn our backs, they're back in there, and then they got their hand out for more of the taxpayers' dollars and more American boys and girls' blood.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah. Final question for you, sir. It's just about China. The president said that there's going to be ongoing negotiations with China. Obviously we have these tariffs. Are you supportive of these tariffs against China? Do you think that it's the right way in order to change the U.S.-China relationship?
I think the president's correct. It's the only way. This diplomacy they've been doing in the past is basically us giving them our checkbook, and Congress is basically gutless when it comes to China. We need to stand up to them. They're bullies. They're completely their Belt and Road Initiative. They go into these countries and then they build a port or something, and then they bankrupt them, and then they take it over. It's just it's a long-term initiative. They've got a 1,000-year plan. Americans, we get our attention spans are about 30 minutes. If we don't get our pizzas in 30 minutes or less, we're freaking out. They're long term. China is, and we have got to get some guts, and we're gonna have to tighten our belts. That's the only solution. The president is correct, and we got to hit them in their pocketbooks. And the reason we don't hear about all the tough times in China is because they don't have the free media like we do here in this country.
That's right.
That's a good point.
And they're going to put out their state-owned stuff, and they are hurting. From what I've heard, they are hurting very bad.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Congressman. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. If I was here, I'd give you all a fist bump.
We'll take that. We'll take a rain check.
There you go. All right. We'll have more rising for you right after this.